Welcome to the Thornton Review.
The show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Charles D. Thornton Sr. currently serves as Vice Chair of the Santa Rosa Island Authority, President-elect of Pensacola-Civitan, Vice Chair of the Escambia County Republican Executive Committee, and member of Northeast Pensacola-Sertoma. Charles is a former member of Escambia County Public School Half-Cent Sales Tax Watchdog Committee, where he served 9 years, and past member of Escambia County Mass Transit Advisory Committee. He has also served on the board of the Northeast Florida Chapter American Red Cross. He has served as president of NAACP Pensacola Branch, Vice Commander American Legion Post 193, and first Vice President of Alpha Phi Alpha Europe Theta Theta Lambda Chapter. Charles developed solid servant leadership skills through his extensive military career. He served 2 years in the Marine Corps, 3 years in the Florida Army National Guard, and 19 years in the Air Force Reserves. He is a proud veteran of Operation Desert Storm. With a strong position on equal opportunity, Charles served as Equal Employment Opportunity Manager while stationed in Germany. He retired as an Air Force Master Sergeant with 24 years of honorable service. Charles is a strong community organizer and activist, respected as a credible voice and having a keen sense of devotion. He is currently a radio personality and news analyst for WRNE Radio and is a valued member of Pensacola Rotary Club. He is also Chief Executive Officer of the online screening news media podcast, The Thornton Review. Charles graduated from Booker T. Washington High School and continued his education at Pensacola Junior College with an AA degree in business, an AS degree in logistics from Career College of the Air Force, and a bachelor's degree in business management from the University of West Florida. Born in Dothan, Alabama, and raised in Pensacola, Florida, he is an avid reader and musician, and he is a die-hard New Orleans Saints fan. Hi, I'm Pueschel Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. We're doing something a little different on today's show. I want our viewers to know the real Charles Thornton, the man whose name is on the show and the man whose name is the show. So Charles, thank you for being my guest on your show. Will you please introduce yourself?
I will. But first thing I want to do is I just want to thank you and congratulate you for what you have done with the show. Most of the time I'm not here, and I'm really proud of the work that you have done. Then I talk a little bit about myself, so it does not go unnoticed, and you're doing a great job.
Well,
thank you so much.
I'm having a blast. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this, because I'm really having the time of my life interviewing everybody in town. I think we've got a niche show going on, and I appreciate it.
You're doing a wonderful job with the show. I always tell people, they call me, I always say you need to get in touch with for sales. You can give me the number. I'm not sure you giving it to us gonna have more clout than you giving it to us. I tell them call you first and call me second. But yeah, I'm Charles Thornton. Most of you here, you know me. I grew up here. I went to elementary school, Brown Barge, 6 years at Brown Barge, 6 years at Brown Barge. 7 years at Brown Barge. 7 years. I started in 56. In 56 at Brown Barge Elementary School. During that time, we was going through the whole Jim Crow segregation thing. Where 1954 was a time where the Civil Rights Act as far as the school, tearing down of the school, and ended up desegregation in 54. Brown versus the Board of Education, and I started in 58, and in 58 it had not moved to our community as yet. Brown versus the Board had not moved, so we were still in segregated schools. So I went from 58 until until the 8th grade. Then the 8th grade I went to Washington Junior High. And then after that, I had 1 year in junior high. Then after that, they turned the high school into middle school. So I've done a lot, I've seen a lot, and I've had to go through a lot. But I still, in spite of that, I would not change anything. I think that this is one of the best countries in the world to be a part of. And I'm gonna have to let everybody know I did some marching, but I was isolated from that stuff. I was, my grandma raised me, so she kind of kept me in sync. And when I got old enough, I did participate. But I'm vice president of the Escambia County Republican Party because most of my life, I really became a Republican during the time of Ronald Reagan. I graduated from junior college
So
in
you were
79.
an adult when you became a Republican?
Yeah, 79 I graduated from junior college, and I started at the University of West Florida in 80.
So you were in college when you became a Republican?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting because most people become Democrats when they go to college nowadays.
Yeah, we watched the election return in one of my business classes, and with Ronald Reagan, and I like the stuff that he was saying, and I like the stuff that he was doing. Before Reagan came, there wasn't that many jobs available. Once he came, the economy was stimulated, and a lot of people was able to get jobs. But I think that most people are Republicans. If you look at it, most folks, I'd say African Americans, Asians, Hispanic. I think most of them, if you deal with family values, if you love the Lord, you go to church, and you're looking at doing the right thing, those are things that are conservative. And we grew up in a conservative household. I had to go to church about 4 or 5 times a week, and I had to be there, and I had to get on my knees, I had to pray, I had to call on the Lord and all that stuff, make me a better person. But most of us are conservative. But what happened during the Civil Rights era, 1964 Civil Rights Act, it broke down a lot of barriers that we needed to have breakdown, and the government started handing out stuff and doing this and doing that. And what happened is we became my community, the community I grew up in, we got stuck on government handouts. And I'm not talking about little children, and I'm not talking about older people, but able-bodied men and women started getting the handout, and that de-incentivized them. When I was coming up, we had neighborhood stores within our own community, and where I would go and buy
business owners, people like you described, they had families, they had structure, they went to church, they went to school, fathers went to work, maybe mothers either helped the fathers in their business that they owned, or they stayed at home with the kids.
Yeah, we had that.
I think the common denominator with the families back then is they had structure. They had structure.
They had more.
They had structure.
They
went to work. They came home, dinner was on the table at a certain time. Children had bath time, reading time, and then bedtime, probably at the same time every night. They were on a schedule. They were structured.
Yeah, that was a structure in the family when neighbors looked out for neighbors. Our fight and our struggle during that particular time was to get rid of some of the Jim Crow laws as far as lynching and as far as being able to hold separate but equal, the separate water fountain. I remember I jumped out of those. And it was not to destroy the family. I think once we knocked those barriers down, but what happened when they knocked the barriers down, they got us another way through handouts. If they could have let us maintain our family structure, our financial structure, then and gave us the tools we needed in our own community to build a certain type of generational wealth. Most communities are able to build generational wealth because they're able to turn dollars over in their own community, and they're able to save money, reinvest money. But we didn't teach each other those skills, and outsiders didn't teach us those skills. They gave us what they felt that we need. We accepted that, and we had a good time on Friday and Saturday night. and we went to church on Sunday, and that's what it was. So if that law would have been passed, so we can separate but equal, knock down Jim Crow. If we could have knocked that down, then went into the economic cycle. The problem is we did not. I won't say a blanket. We did not. No community is monolithic, but it's just that our particular community. Once we've done that, we forgot about all our businesses. We stopped patronizing our local businesses. We stopped doing this. We started going to other stores. We started going to Newburgh, Woodward, and all the other.
Able to.
Yeah, because and we was able to, but you have to. There are a lot of people that are able to do a lot of things, but they care about their community first, and we didn't take advantage of that,
So your family didn't take advantage of that. Is that what you're saying? I want to cover that. I want to know how you flourished through that, and you didn't become a victim of the handouts. But we're going to take a commercial break, if that's okay with you, since your name's on the show. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion with Charles Thornton on Thornton Review. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Alpha Fence Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-695-9526. 850-695-9526. So Charles, I'd like to know how you and your family overcame the struggles of segregation. How you didn't fall victim to the handouts.
Well, my family, we had my granddaddy raised me, and my grandmother, and I was born in Dothan. Were they married? They were married, and my mom went out and done a lot of work. But we had, like my granddaddy raised chicken. We had vegetables, everything. We grew everything there in our yard. So we had all our food was there, so we didn't really have to go out and do a whole lot of buying.
Was that here in Pensacola?
Yeah, right around the corner from Washington High School.
Okay.
J. Wood Hall Center, right around the corner there on Tarragona Street. Most of the food we had, so all you have to do was just go out there, and they would go hunting, and we had rabbits and this and that. There's a lot of stuff that we had to eat, so we didn't suffer. And I spent most of my time with my grandmom in the kitchen. So I was like, I remember 4 years old, I had a green table while I was in there trying to cook and all. But let's go back to that one piece, that segregation piece. The thing that we fought for was for real. It was true. Some of the things that was happening. But once we overcame that, we got stuck into a dependency mode. We should not, and that's how the government tricked us into that. It took away your motivation. My parents, they was not going to get on welfare, nothing like that. When I was in the first grade, I worked in the lunchroom at school, Brown Boys Elementary School, and kind of worked my way. So I worked my way, and but our family was different. People would come in, my granddad would do stuff, keep the squirrels, keep the chickens. He was a businessman. He had to write an X for his name. My granddad was, but he was a hard worker. He couldn't read or write.
So he couldn't read or write?
He couldn't read or write. And in my family, I grew up in the church. And in my family, everybody went to church, saved, sanctified, and this and that. And I started playing in a band when I was like 15 years old, and they, they didn't like that.
Right, because it wasn't Christian music. Okay, so let me ask you this. So what year were your grandparents born?
He was born like in 1898.
Okay.
My
So it
grandfather.
was well after the Civil War.
Yeah, he was born.
But I'm sure that they experienced struggles growing up. Because his parents and grandparents
was probably part of that slavery thing, but he was born in 1898.
Okay.
Right.
But your grandparents, were they self-sufficient with food? They didn't go to the store to buy food? They raised all their own food that you ate?
A lot of stuff, they had to buy grease. Sometimes they would make it. Sometimes you could make lard.
Yeah.
They call it lard.
Yeah.
Sometimes they could make that. You had to go to the store for something. They had a store called Pleasing.
Yeah. PLEE-ZING.
Yeah, we would go to Pleasing.
I remember that.
And I'm trying to think of some other store. Most of the time we shopped at.
Barnes.
We shopped at Pleasing, and we would go over there on the weekend. And we kind of, and I learned that.
Was Pleasing before segregation? That was a colored store?
Yeah, it was there. And they had a singing group over there. I forget the name of the singing group. But once we went through Jim Crow, then we became lazy. Not everybody, but a lot of us became lazy because the government started doing handouts. And one of the requirements on the handout was that if we gave this mother money, funds, the government funds, then she couldn't have any men in the house. She couldn't have this person stand.
So it broke the family apart.
It broke the family apart.
It gave an incentive to divorce.
Yeah, it gave an incentive to divorce. And they also, it also incentivized having children, I believe. I'm thinking because I think for each child a person had, that was a certain amount of money you can get. And you got to remember, they broken up the business in the community. So now you got to go out and work with somebody who's not gonna pay you enough to do certain things and take care of your family and stuff like that. So I think the Civil Rights Act bill was good. Nobody's talking about going back. We're not going back. But I think it de-incentivized a lot in our community. We had thriving businesses. I remember Madam C.L. Walker. I remember we had radio stations. We had a lot of things. In some kind of way, I was saying, in 71, I was saying when I was in college, I was saying the struggle is economics. It's not so much you want to live next door to your neighbor. That was two people that was out there around that time in the early 1900s, W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. W.B. Du Bois, he represented the talented 10th and all those who had education and things like that. But Booker T. Washington, he was a leader as well. He started Tuskegee, and his thing that my people need jobs. His thing was, we work, become self-sufficient. If you go to college, that's fine. But there was a lot put on going to college, and even with the colleges, because even with the colleges, it was still the haves and the have-not. At that time, when you was a teacher, you was on the scale. And that's kind of spread it out. But we were de-incentivized. And even now in our own community, and I can say that, we don't support each other to the extent that we can. I think, I always say I don't know whether we have the answer. When I say we, I mean as Democrats, whether we have the answer to all the problems of the world today within our community. I'm talking about within the U.S. and within certain communities. But I know who caused those problems. And for what I'm concerned, it's the Democratic Party, because the party itself, I know there's a lot of good Democrats. I'm talking about the apparatus. The party itself comes around every 4 years and make a lot of promises of what they're going to hand out.
But where's the change?
I need to see change. I see change sometime up at the top. We got the football, the basketball players. We got the people working at the factories. Folks work on base, and those are pretty good. But then until you get to that bottom tier, we have yet to be able to put a dent in the poverty-stricken areas. Bill Clinton's answer was to lock them up. Him and Joe Biden and Hillary got together, came up with something in 1994, an act that would just, and they started building prisons to lock them up. But the answer is not to lock them up. The answer is
Who were they locking up?
it was targeting black males with drugs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a two-tier system where if you did cocaine,
I would
that
think
wasn't
mandatory rehab is, and some sort of work incentive, but not.
No. It was during the when Bill Clinton was in office. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a big. They call it that was a big institution as for building jails and things like that. But even with that, we could have overcome that as a community because we vote. The parties depend on it.
So many people did overcome it. I mean, there are plenty of people from your community that you're speaking of who are successful, who are level-headed, who are moral, and who live a structured, life. And
a lot of people did overcome it. But my goal is that the people that have not,
and they have a mindset.
It's more of a monetary type thing within the community. I don't know what people think about Creflo Dollar, but he had a saying. I just listened to one time saying, "Now there's not enough in your life." That's the point where you don't have enough to do anything. Then there's just enough. I have just enough to pay my bill. I have just enough to get my car. I have just enough to do the things I need to do. But within the African American community, a lot of times, and then what other folks do, they get to the land of more than a lot. No. And that's what, in order to help somebody, you can't help nobody if you got just enough to pay your bill. Yeah. And the only way to build that generational wealth is to rotate the dollars and support each other. But I think until we deal with that, we're going to have, and just enough of the people that you're saying that overcome it, but we have enough dollars. We have enough athletes who could have came here and reinvested in our community. And you go ahead and ask me a question. I get to talking.
So now you're talking about segregation and growing up, and we can touch back on that also. But in your adult life now, like right now, you're very successful. I'm just in awe every time I talk to you and see you in action.
You may say, Charles, you're successful. But you know how I count success? If a person is on drugs and if they get off drugs and just do a turnaround in their life.
Sure.
And go to work. To me, that person is a success. If a person is uneducated and they go and take the first step and get that diploma, their GED, that's success. Because when you put a dollar figure, if you put a status figure, because I sat on this board and that board, that there are people who don't sit on board who we have to incentivize them to be successful at whatever level they are. If we can get some of the folks off the street out there, I would consider that person as being successful. And what we do, I'm talking about in our we count on everybody else to solve our problem. Even those of us within our community who like to think that they are successful, who may be successful, just enough. That's fine. Just enough to pay your bills. Some people just that I say living in credit. Mortgage Hill and Credit Card Village, and they walk around. Mortgage Hill, living in Mortgage Hill and Credit Card Village does not make you successful.
No.
It just means that you got a lot of bills you got to pay. And what we're trying to do, get past
credit
mortgages.
cards are only good if you have something to back it up.
And the only way to come out of that mode is to turn over dollars within your own community and try to do those things. We do have people that are successful, but the new struggle is financial. I'm hoping that President Trump and I want folks to hold him accountable would do something within our community, because as long as you have what they consider the lower middle class, that's doing okay. But what we got to do until we reach the folks who's living at the poverty level, look, I see it because I go out and I see it, and like affordable housing, you know.
Well, first off, are they able-bodied? You know, are they working? If they are working, you know, it's probably really nobody's business, but what are they spending their money on if they're at that poverty level, but they're working, you know, like...
And if they're at the poverty level and they're not working, they're going to do what they have to. It's the law of nature. People do the things that they feel like they need to do to survive. And one thing about anything, you can't do wrong right. So eventually what happens is they go out. Women have certain things that they do to try to make ends meet. Men have certain things that they do to try to make ends meet. So what we need to do is take these people, like banking. Some folks don't even have bank accounts and things like that. But our city leaders and our county leaders, we look at a lot of times. We look at the big picture. But I think that at some point in time, we should focus on our homeless and our folks that are in poverty. And you can't do it. You have to meet them where they are. And if they refuse to help, now then you can say, we tried. And I'm not sure if I ask someone to show me the documentation. I don't mean a program that just the administrator of the program will get the money and the money never reach the ground, because once that money runs out for the administrator, that's the end of the program.
Yeah. So, well, what do you think about incentivizing families, like families that stay together and who the father's working? Instead of incentivizing the able-bodied person that just refuses to work, why not incentivize the families who are working?
I think you can do that, but I think the family structure is so gotten to a point where the wife don't want to listen to the husband, or the male, female doesn't want to listen to the male, and the husband don't want to listen to the wife.
Just don't get along.
Can't nobody tell nobody nothing in the family. And whatever they seek, they go get it from the outside. And the children see this. Because, you know, the Bible says train up a child in the way that it should go.
It also tells you how a wife should act and a description of a wife, and it gives a description.
That's in the book of Ephesians. If anyone want to find out how a family should live, you just go to the Bible, and there are certain things in the book of Ephesians.
So when my husband and I got married, you have to get a marriage certificate from the courthouse before you go to the church and have your church wedding with the pastor. And one of the pamphlets that they gave us on marriage was actually about divorce. Like everything in that pamphlet was what to do when you decide to get a divorce. And we were like, wow, this is what they give to people when they're getting married. It's a divorce pamphlet. And so it's almost like they know that you're just going to end up in divorce. Like they're assuming that, you know, you're getting married now, you're in love now, it's an emotional thing, it's not, the love that you have between each other is not biblical love, because it describes what love is in the Bible, and if you love each other, it's not an emotional thing. It's a decision to treat someone a certain way. And you have to stick with that decision for the rest of your life. Thick and thin. And that's kind of what the pastor asks you, if you promise each other that you're going to do that. But it was on divorce. And so the government is saying it is okay to get divorced. In fact, if you want to get divorced, here's what you do.
No fault.
Right. But the government should be saying, marriage is biblical and marriage does not get separated.
The problem is, this is Charles talking. I want everybody to know out there, this is not necessarily the views of this show, but this is Charles talking. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get on anybody, you can get on me, and I'll give you my phone number. You can call me. But a lot of people get married for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. People get married for reasons other than love. You can have 80% of happiness with someone, but then there's that 20 to 15% that of joy on the outside. You'll leave 80%. A lot of people leave 80%, just so they can get that 20%, knowing it's not going to work. And I like to tell people, it's not so much of someone that you love, it's more important that you find someone that loves you. That's the key.
Right.
You could love a person. If they're going to treat you bad, you probably don't need to marry that person or be with that person. But you want to find someone, and sometimes that takes a little time if God's going to work that out for you. But some people rush into it for reasons other than that. Some for security, some because they feel like this person can do that to some. And some of them jump into it knowing that when they get on their feet, they're going to be gone. So people are getting married for the wrong reason. That's a lot of reasons why church, if folks would go to church and they would read their Bible, and the family that prays together stays together. But families are not doing family things now, and then they wonder what happened to their children. And
I think the pamphlet should have been the Bible verse that explains what love is, and it should explain the role of the wife, the biblical verses of the role of the wife and the role of the husband and the role of the children.
Book of Ephesians.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's So the government is already incentivizing divorce before you even get married.
Well, you go around in Pensacola right now, folks living in HUD houses. They can't bring their male friends or friends in there because it's for them and their child. But eventually they sneak them in the other way, and sometimes you have bad elements.
Right.
But the government has helped put us where we are because a person can have 3 or 4 kids, and that's a check for each one of the kids.
Yeah, that's
and I've seen families that got
income.
5 kids.
Yeah.
And all of them have some kind of disability, getting a check.
Yeah.
And you can't, and I don't know how you can have 5.
I know, right?
That the
And
same
not
way.
married.
Yeah. And people try to, and I'm not saying everybody, folks. We're just keeping it real right here. You all know, the public know that the thing, you know what I'm talking about. And until we get to a point where we can actually marry for love one another, even if it's an agape love, which sometimes we don't even have love in our heart for our fellow man.
It's agape love, that's brotherly love.
Yeah. And I looked at it like this early part of this year. It's no secret I'm a Republican, but you would be surprised at what I had to go through in my own community, where I'm constantly trying to make a contribution to, just because of they know Charles, and just because I'm a Republican, because we was trained to dislike each other for different reasons. I'm kind of giving you a little lesson on that. Sometimes it's the way you wear your hair, your clothes, the color of your car. Just there's so much envy, and not to support each other. But anyway, I'm listening.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break. I want to remind our viewers that the Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with the purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Charles Thornton on his life and what he's involved in.
There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that.
Alpha Fence Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-695-9526. 850-695-9526. So Charles, What was the very beginning motivation for your political endeavors?
When I was 16 years old, it was 1968. We had a black and white TV in the family at the house, and I watched it. And I watched the Chicago convention, and it was a big mess. They had the Democrat, and it was a Democratic convention, and they was hooping and hollering and carrying on and threatening each other. And anybody just Google the 1968 Democratic convention, and after that, I wanted to find out what exactly the folks was doing, and I kept up with it. And from that point on, I kept up. My life mainly was music and politics, and as far as and also, I was one of the first out of an extended family. I was one of the first individuals to go to college, and after that, I have cousins that are attorneys and everything now. But for me, playing the devil, I went to college, and we had nobody that I went to college and I graduated, and I didn't die playing the music. I mean something else, but folks looked at me, and I was really considered the black sheep. I was kind of the black sheep. They say ain't nothing happened to him, so everybody started living. But that's what motivated me.
So what happened in college that made you decide that you were a Republican?
Ronald Reagan. I watched that night. I watched it because Reagan had ran 4 years earlier. I'm trying to think who won. I think he beat Jimmy Carter. He beat Jimmy Carter, but I think he also ran when the guy from Arizona. I forget his name. He was a senator, Barry Goldwater. Okay. I think he ran at that particular time. But I think what happened is I'm not sure. I think Nixon won out at that particular time. I believe. I'm not sure, but I think it was something like that. But it was Ronald Reagan. I remember all of the. I think Ronald Reagan really, because I saw the way he handled how he handled the country, and we was really doing bad coming out of Jimmy Carter's situation. It was rationing everything out, gas, food. It was just a terrible time. Jimmy Carter created the
gas shortage.
He created the Department of Education. Prior to Jimmy Carter, we didn't have a Department of Education.
Interesting.
We just everybody, the states educated that too. He created the EEOC. He created quite a few entities that kind of wreak havoc on every. Now the education is coming from up high. It doesn't matter what you think down here on the ground. So I looked at some of those things, and I'm a child of a public school, so I saw some of those changes and everything. So when I looked at and I just started thinking Republican. I did become a Democrat again when I voted for Barack Obama. I count my breath, and I voted for him because I think everybody did. But I was somewhat disappointed in some of the things that he did. But the one thing about President Obama, you couldn't say anything about him, because if you did, you know, it was like give a brother a chance. You know, you can't talk about him.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King and Jesus, and all of them deserve respect. But some people that did community, they revere Abraham Lincoln, which is no problem. Found out the Republican Party. There was John F. Kennedy. He was a hero. Then there was Barack Obama. I'm not going to even put Martin Luther King, because his mission was totally different. He wasn't into politics. He was more trying to break down barriers. And just when he got assassinated, he was getting ready for a war on poverty. They was getting ready to go to D.C. and they're going to do a campaign and try to deal with the poverty issue. And once he left, so we're still stuck. And I guess I'll be active until I see something trickle down. If a person can take care of themselves, I'm not worried about them. But you know, but what I have to worry about is I want my legacy to be that I've done something. I have to be a voice for the voiceless, because I was coming up. I had guys in my community because I didn't fight or nothing. Won't bother me now. But back then, they would take care of me, and I made a promise to myself that I would position myself. So if I could help somebody, I would do that. We used to stick together, and it's just conservative principles. And if you look at it, conservative principles, there's a lot of incentive in being a Republican. The Republicans are not going to put no money in your pocket just for you to join. But what they will do, what you can do, is learn some principles that you won't have the pity parties, and you won't blame you will stop blaming everything on the government, the same government that you voted in office. And that's the thing that's the whole thing. And I'm hoping that by being where I am, I have people come up to me sometimes and they tell me kind words. A lot of them can't do it a certain way. I go on a radio station, I'll be on that Monday morning, not Monday but Thursday morning, I'll be on the radio station, I talk, and I'm willing to engage anyone and have a dialogue with anyone about my belief in comparison to their belief, but it has to be a cordial, almost a moderated discussion, because people on the other side, and I have to call the name because that's what they are, progressive and Democrat. It's either their way or the highway. And when somebody say they represent all white people, they're not representing me. I represent myself, and I know there's about 1,600 Black Republicans in Escambia County. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like the way to the future is through the Republican Party, and you can't talk about it if you don't know nothing about it.
I talked to some of them, and I think that a lot of people are just afraid to say they're Republican because of backlash from their family or just the community, because they feel like they're supposed to be Democrat.
I say to those people, hey, come out of the closet. There's plenty of room. But if we got your vote during the last election, I appreciate that. And if you really want to be free, you have to free yourself. Now, if you like being there, and every 4 years going back and somebody come out and promise you something,
people are afraid of change.
They're not going to deliver. Yeah. I just think that I hope that one day in Pensacola, that the so-called black leaders, the black leadership, high-profile blacks, will have a meeting where they would bring in and engage a voice like mine but they're afraid. They're afraid to do that. I would love to. They have meetings, but what they talk about is the same thing, same answers, same question, same solution. I know. I was once president of the NAACP. At that time, my whole thing was economics, trying to create an economics imbalance and trying to get people to do this. And they didn't want to. They don't want to talk about economics. They want to talk more about injustice. And now we've even taken on the LGBTQ community and a whole lot of other things. But the key to any success is put one foot in front of the other and get a job. I'm talking to young folks. I'm not talking to the older people who retire and stuff. Yeah. The young people,
the
able-bodied folks, go out and get a job. It doesn't matter what type of job you get, because the only thing, you build your resume by being dependable. Now, that's what people look at. Before they even look at the skill set, they're going to want to know if you're dependable. And if you can go there and you show up. And I've never known a real job to kill somebody without them having an accident. Work would not.
Right.
Work won't kill you.
Right.
Work within itself won't kill you. It's good for you.
Structure is good.
Yeah.
Staying on a schedule, get to work when you're supposed to, get off work, go home, have dinner, do household things, go to bed at a regular time.
I'm not the smartest person, but I'm an average person. But nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody's going to outwork me, and that's at this point in my life, where I'm at this point. It came through consistency, hard work, and you want to make each year count. You don't want to have to go back to last year, a year before last, to reminisce about something you done, or reminisce about some contribution you made. I make a different contribution every year. 2025, a new year, new challenge for me. I don't want to be talking that much. I'll have the memories, but even at 2025, what are my goals for 2025? I know people got to go back to high school when they play football and basketball. So we got to teach our children that to keep and build that legacy within our monetize our own community. The money is out there, but sometimes if one person don't have it, sometimes a community have to come together and trust each other, one enough to invest in each other. Whatever I do, I just do it. But there are folks out there who want to do some things that don't have the capacity to do it because capacity is what's needed. And all you have to do is come together. There are contracts and all kinds of things that if we just come together, we get money, but our money goes out to other places. And I don't have a problem with that.
Because of the cost of living?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, we're about to have to wrap it up. So, do you have any closing statements? Like, to bring it all together. So you started as a young child, you went through segregation, you went through Jim Crow, and then you went through desegregation, and you flourished, and you're able-bodied, and you have a lot of energy, apparently. You still have a lot of energy. So you worked hard all your life, but you saw other people struggling, other people getting in the rut of handouts. I'd like to have another segment with you. How do you get the current people out of that? We don't have a lot of time to talk about that or to get into it, but
the key thing is that if you make a mistake, say I made a mistake, and don't blame it on somebody else. I'm not talking about a criminal type mistake. If you make a life-changing mistake, because you can make a mistake, but the key thing, you have to get it. You gotta work somewhere. You gotta get a job if you want to become self-sufficient. Because if you don't, then you're going to try to get it some other way. But you have to get a job and show up. You got to be dependable, and that's the first thing.
Those are words of wisdom.
The first thing, get a job, and right now I understand that most jobs are paying close to $15 an hour. Well, $15 an hour, some of them. So there's no reason for an able-bodied person not to have anything. And then you take a class on money, because money is just like a woman, a female. Because if you mistreat your woman, if you mistreat your lady, and I know some people think they're no different, then they're going to leave you. And money is the same way. You mistreat your money, it's not going to hang around. You're going to lose your money. So treat your money like you treat your woman, or treat your money like you treat your man. And that's another key. Don't judge it, and don't look at what somebody else have. Live within your means and work your way up out of that. Yeah.
Well, Charles, I'm having a blast doing the show with you. I really appreciate everything that you've done to me and all of your words of encouragement and wisdom, and I always learn from you. The Thornton Review is on the air to provide public service awareness and intellectual infrastructure to our community. We want to thank our sponsors, Ida Gates, Godly Teas LLC, and Alpha Fence Company, and our guest, Charles Thornton. Thank you for coming on your own show and letting me interview you. It was a lot of fun. And we want to thank our viewers for watching this episode of the Thornton Review. Bye-bye.